Welcome to the Dr. Bo Show, a critical thinking, reason, and science-based approach to issues that matter.
Understanding Statistics and Stereotypes, a critical examination. Explore how data shapes stereotypes and learn how to challenge them through understanding, humor, and education with host Jerry Sage. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of our podcast. I'm Jerry Sage, your host for this episode, filling in for Dr. Bennett. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of statistics and stereotypes. It's a topic that sits at the intersection of data science, psychology, and sociology. And let's be honest, it's a topic that's steeped in controversy, misunderstandings, and sometimes even humor. So buckle up as we explore how our brains use heuristics, the role of data in forming stereotypes, and what we can do to challenge the stereotypes we find socially unacceptable, the science behind stereotypes. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Stereotypes. Often seen as the ugly cousin of generalizations, stereotypes have a bad reputation. But did you know that many stereotypes are not simply the result of prejudice or bias? In fact, they're often rooted in data. Yes, that's right. The same data that helps us predict weather patterns or recommend your next Netflix binge watch. Our brains are wired to use heuristics, which are mental shortcuts that help us make quick decisions. Heuristics rely on observable patterns to come to statistically probable conclusions. For instance, if you see dark clouds forming, you might grab an umbrella because you associate those clouds with rain. This is a harmless example of using a heuristic when data meets social unacceptability. However, things get a bit more complicated when it comes to social stereotypes. Let's take a look at an example. The stereotype that teenagers are always on their phones. Now, this stereotype didn't just appear out of thin air. It emerged from data. Various studies have shown that teenagers do spend a significant amount of time using smartphones. But here's the kicker. If we don't like this stereotype because it's socially unacceptable, we can't just pretend the pattern doesn't exist. Instead, if we want to make a social change, we need to understand why the data is the way it is. Is it because smartphones are teenagers' primary means of communication? Is it because they serve as a tool for education and social interaction? By addressing these underlying causes, we can challenge the stereotype more effectively than simply labeling it as prejudice. Challenging stereotypes through understanding. So how do we go about changing these stereotypes? First, we need to acknowledge that some stereotypes exist because there's a kernel of truth in them. This isn't a license to accept them blindly, but rather a call to understand their origins. Identify the data. Start by examining the data that led to the stereotype. What patterns are evident? What statistics support or challenge the stereotype? Analyze the causes. Why do these patterns exist? Are there socioeconomic factors, cultural influences, or other variables at play? Promote education. Once we've identified the data and its causes, we can educate others. Knowledge is a powerful tool in breaking down stereotypes. By addressing these questions, we can dismantle harmful stereotypes and promote a more nuanced understanding of the world around us. Humor in heuristics. Now, I promised you a bit of humor, didn't I? Let's take a lighthearted look at our reliance on heuristics. Have you ever noticed how your grandmother insists that everyone is sick because of the draft? There's no scientific evidence backing this claim, but it's a classic example of a heuristic based on anecdotal observations. It makes for a good chuckle, but it also serves as a reminder of how our minds can latch onto patterns that may not hold up under scrutiny. Visit Dr. Bennett's bookstore. If you're intrigued by today's discussion and want to dive deeper into the realms of critical thinking, science, and logic, I highly recommend you visit Dr. Bo's bookstore. You'll find a treasure trove of resources that can sharpen your understanding and broaden your perspective on these critical topics. Thank you for joining me today on this exploration of statistics and stereotypes. Remember, the next time you hear a stereotype, take a moment to think about the data behind it and consider how we can challenge it through understanding and education. Until next time, I'm Jerry Sage, signing off.